If you've been on the fence about buying an electric vehicle up to this point because of price, well, BYD might have the answer for you, because behind me is the new Atto 1, and it promises to be Australia's cheapest new electric car. But we all know that cheap doesn't necessarily mean good, so let's go find out what the Atto 1 is all about. We don't know exact pricing for the 2026 Atto 1 just yet, but BYD will position it starting from around $25,000. That's going to be for the base essential grade though, and the one we have here is the Atto 1 Premium, which will push closer to $30,000. There are key differences between the two though. The base car will have a 30 kilowatt-hour battery for a claimed 220 kilometers of driving range, as well as a 65 kilowatt and 175 newton meter front drive electric motor. This car, the Atto 1 Premium, is upgraded to a bigger 43.2 kilowatt-hour battery for a 310 kilometer driving range, while the electric motor is also more potent, punching out 115 kilowatts and 220 newton meters. Both models will feature DC fast charging though, meaning you can recoup 10 to 80% of the battery in as little as 30 minutes. Granted, you find the right type of charger. Full specification details are yet to be revealed though, so keep an eye on Drive.com.au for that one. Inside, of course, there's plenty of space for the front occupants, but it's here where you start to notice some of the cost-cutting corners. Yes, there are some nice soft-touch materials on the dashboard, the steering wheel, and the armrest, but the rest of the interior plastics, they kind of feel a bit low rent. Now, if you ask me, what's the right size for an infotainment screen? I'd say anywhere from 7 inches and up, and it's starting to feel pretty big. Well, the Atto 1 actually has a 10-inch screen. But weirdly enough, in this model, it feels tiny for some reason. And I think that's because in other BYD models, this screen is a lot larger, offering you more real estate so you can swipe and palm away at the satellite navigation and climate controls. This screen also doesn't rotate, which I suspect is another cost-cutting measure from BYD. Now I know the Atto 1 looks tiny on the outside, but once you actually get inside, there's actually a surprising amount of space in here. I'm sat behind my driving position and I still have leg room, toe room, shoulder room, and even a little bit of headroom. Of particular note though, is that the Atto 1 is strictly a 4-seater. That's right, there's no middle pew back here. So if you've got more than 3 friends, well, you might have to consider buying another model. For those wondering, despite the small size, the boot of the Atto 1 will still swallow a healthy 308 litre load. It is also worth mentioning that this car over in Europe is known as the Dolphin Surf, which has been crash tested, where Euro NCAP gave the car a 5-star rating, which is expected to carry over for Australian delivered BYD Atto 1s. Now I get it, on paper 115 kilowatts and 220 newton meters might not seem all that exciting from a front drive electric car like this Atto 1, but in practice and in the real world, it's actually really fun. Keep in mind that this car is focused primarily for use on inner city streets, so you're not really going to be doing 110 kilometers down the Hume. And because of that, performance from a standstill up to about 60 kilometers an hour, it's brisk, thanks to that instant torque on offer from this electric car. The steering is also really communicative, which means that the driver feels confident behind the wheel. You can sling it into a corner and the car does exactly what you would expect it to do. And while the wheelbase is relatively short, it stretches to the edges of the car. And that means that over bumps and road imperfections, the Atto 1 handles it all pretty well. The one downside in here, once you get up to speeds over 80 kilometers an hour, the wind noise can get really irksome. You know how it's really fun to drive something like a Suzuki Swift, a Mazda 2 and a Toyota Yaris? Just because its small size means you can just punt it about, throw it around a corner, and really wrestle with the steering? Well, all of those characteristics are true of the BYD Atto 1 as well. It just feels so eager when you turn the wheel. It just wants to rotate and get itself around a corner as quickly as possible. I really like that characteristic about it. What is it they say about size, that it really matters? Well, in this case, the BYD Atto 1, size isn't a factor at all. Yes, it's a small, tiny, city-focused hatchback, but it's bigger on the inside than you'd actually think. And its driving range, while relatively short compared to other EVs, is perfect for that inner city commute to and from work and maybe even to childcare. So if you've been looking at something like a Mazda 2 or a Suzuki Swift as a second car, well, you can now get an all-electric model at the same price, and that's something definitely worth considering.